Welcome back to Namaste Node.js Season 2 and we are building Dev Tinder. In all these episodes prior to this episode in this season, we were just exploring Express.js. We have seen how to create a MongoDB database. We have seen how do you create different type of APIs. We have seen how to get data from the database, post data into the database, and we have seen a lot of amazing things. We have seen a lot of amazing things, and we were just diving deep into these complex topics. We have also seen how to authenticate the user, middlewares, and so many more concepts we have learned inside Express and Node.js, right? Hope you are enjoying all this learning, right? Now, let us just move on to building more APIs in this episode, okay? So let us just build more APIs in this episode. But what I will do now is we will be focusing more upon different features, right? Different features inside Dev Tinder. Right? So right now we have built these 2-3 APIs, right? We have built a sign up API, we have built a login API, profile API, send connection request API. Similarly, we will build a lot more APIs, right? Remember when we were planning inside, right, in our initial episodes, we planned a lot of APIs, right? We would need an API for profile, we would need an API for sending request, we will need an API for reviewing request, we will need an API for request, right? We will need an API for connections. So many APIs we planned. Now, what we will do in this episode is, the first thing we will do is, first of all, let us just list down all the APIs that we will need. Okay, so you would say that, Akshay, we have already done this, but now I want that, okay, let us finalize all the APIs, right? The exact names of it, because this is not the exact name of the API, right? Let us finalize all the API contract, right? How will you pass data? What will be passed and all that thing, right? Let us make those API list once again, right? For all the features. Then what we will do, we will then start building these APIs slowly. Okay, so let's just start. But before thinking about all these APIs, okay, so let us just try to think about these APIs. Let us just quickly do it and then we will move ahead. Okay, so let us do it inside homework.md. Let us create a API list over here. Shall we create a API list over here? No, let us not do it in homework.md, right? Let us not do it on homework.md. Let us create a new file. Okay, and let's call this as API list.md. Okay, let's create a new MD file, and over here I will list all the Dev Tinder APIs, right? Dev Tinder APIs. Okay, so these are Dev Tinder APIs. Now, what APIs can be there? So let us just quickly list all of them down. We have got a post API for sign up. What all APIs will we need? We will need an API for post API for /sign up. Right? We will need this API. Then what we will need, just think about the application for a while. The user will come onto our application, he will sign up. As soon as he signs up, then there can be authentication API, right? Like login API. And then there can be one API for logout also, right? /logout API, right? Logout API. So suppose I have got this authentication API, sign up API, login API, logout API. Once the user has signed in, then there can be an API to create the profile, right? So basically, see, sign up is kind of like creating a profile, but updating a profile, right? So basically, patch API for profile, right? I can just patch the profile, or one API also to get the profile, right? So basically, if I go to my profile page, I should get the data for my profile, right? Basically, I will get my data back from the server. So that's a get API for profile. Okay, and then there can be one more API. So basically this patch API is for basically updating the profile. This get API is for getting the data of the profile, basically viewing the profile. Okay, or this patch API is for basically edit. And in the API also I can write something like this, edit. Okay, and this basically get API is for basically view, right? So this makes it more clear, isn't it? Profile view, profile edit. Okay, now there can be multiple APIs, right? There can be one more API. See, this patch API edits your gender, age, profile photo, skills, all these things. This patch API will edit, but it will not edit your email ID or password. Email ID we are not allowing user to edit, right? And for, okay, so one more API we will need to edit the password, okay? We should not be using the same API for editing the password because it's a different API. The logic will be very different. So let's create a different API for just updating the profile. Basically forgot password kind of an API. right? Or maybe let's call this as profile and then maybe patch password, right? Patch password. So patch password, profile password, right? And patch profile edit, right? So basically you are editing the other fields. So this is the profile APIs. What else API can be there then? There can be more user APIs, right? Maybe like updating the password, updating the profile, and I can't think of more right now, but okay, that's it. Then we can have some APIs for our sending the connection request, right? Before I start listing you the APIs over here about sending the connection request, receiving the connection request, let us just go to tinder.com and let me just exactly show you that how Tinder does all of it, right? Because that's a very interesting learning for you as well as for me and for everybody, right? So because we are building a application like Tinder, so let us just let me just show you that what Tinder actually is doing, how their APIs are structured. Okay, do you want to see that? Let me just show it to you. So here is my Tinder profile, right? And if you go over here, let us open the network tab. So this is a Tinder profile. So let me just clear over here, right? All the APIs, let us just clear the APIs, right? Now, whenever I will left swipe or right swipe, if I will left swipe or right swipe, there will be a API call which will be made, right? So there will be one API call which will be made. So let us just see what is that API call. Okay. So if I maybe let us just, this is the profile, right? Now let me just right swipe. So if I right swipe, so this is the API call which happened, right? And what is this API call? Just look at it very importantly, right? So let us just look at it. So this API is basically api.gotinder.com and a like API. So this like API, whenever you are right swiping somebody, whenever you are interested, they call this as a like API. So if I left swipe him, so if I left swipe a profile, so this is the API and this API is known as pass API, right? So if I right swipe, this is a like API. If I left swipe, this is a pass API. Okay. So basically, they have a different nomenclature altogether. Just like we say, what are the statuses that we have, right? Remember, we have 4 statuses, right? Status. A connection request can be either in ignored, right? When we see a profile, I can either ignore it or I am interested in it, right? Remember, we were just exploring that, right? So either the profile can be ignored or interested. Tinder call this ignore as pass and Tinder call this interested as like. Okay, pass, like, something like that, right? So we are calling this as ignore and interested. So let us just write ignore and interested, right? Interested. And there can be more statuses like accepted and rejected, right? Suppose if somebody is interested, then the other person can now accept the request, or a connection request can have a rejected state. Right? Accepted, rejected, interested means the sender is interested in receiver's profile, right? And ignore means the user ignored the profile, right? Basically. So what we will do is, if I will right swipe, right? If I will right swipe, we will call this interested API. And if we left swipe, we will call the ignore API. Okay. So this is how we will make it, right? So let us just define this API. So basically we can say that, okay, I'm sending a connection request. So request, and then I can say send, and then I can say, basically I can do interested, right? Interested, and then I can send a profile ID, right? Just like they are making, right? Pass, and then they are giving the ID of this user. So this is the user ID, right? So suppose this is Shalu, right? So if I left swipe, so this is the profile ID or the object ID of Shalu. Okay. So this is the ID, and over here I will give user ID. Right. And what my API will be like this. Now, what I can do, there would be one more API, right? Post API. And then what I will do, I will say ignored, right? And then I can pass in user API. Now there can be, so this is like sending the connection request. Now suppose I have received the connection request, how will I accept and reject? So there will be a profile to, suppose if you have sent a connection request, now I want to accept and reject also, right? So there will be more APIs. So let's call that API as request. So I am now accepting or rejecting the request. So I will say request review, and in that review, 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 right? I am reviewing that request and I am either accepting it, accepted, and then I can pass a user ID. Not a user ID, basically a request ID, because I don't know the user ID, right? I know the request ID. Okay, and then if I want to, if you don't understand all of it, don't worry. We will be making these API one by one and you will understand everything, right? And then we will make a API of rejected. Okay, and then rejected, and then I can just use the rejected over here, right? So this is for rejection. Now we will make more APIs. What kind of APIs can be there? There can be a API. Let us just explore Tinder's API, right? Maybe if I refresh the page, what all API Tinder has, right? Maybe we are missing on some APIs, right? So if I go and explore Tinder's API, so there is an API, Explore API. What is this Explore API? I don't know what is this API, right? Okay, this is basically sending you the details of the UI, right? So this is telling you section, right? Welcome to Explore. So there is some Explore section or something, right? This is Matches API. So what is this Matches? Okay, it is getting me the matches, right? Whatever matches I have. So these are the Matches API. So basically all my connections, to get the connections, right? Let's call this as get connections. And similarly, there will be an API for checking the request, right? If somebody has sent us the connection request, so I should be able to check that connection request, right? Get all my requests, right? Received request, request received, RECEIVED, right? CEIVED. So basically, request and received. Getting all the received request, getting all the connections. And can there be more APIs? Yep. So there will be one API for feed also, right? I forgot the main API, right? So suppose if you are refreshing, if you are coming to this Tinder once again, so there would be some API which gets me the feed, right? This is my feed. This is the feed which is loading it. The Himangi which has been loaded, this Himangi's profile would have come from some API, right? What is that API? So let me just tell you that API is core API. Yes, this is the API, right? So this core API over here, do you see this core API? This core API brings you these profiles, right? All these profiles that you see on the home page, these are brought to you by a core, right? So, you know people, I would request you, go make your Tinder profile and explore these APIs. I'm not saying go and use Tinder, right? But make your profile just for experimentation purpose, right? Just make your Tinder profile and just explore these APIs for your tech references. I'm not saying go. I am not anyway endorsing you to use Tinder and go on dating and do whatsoever. That's your personal choice. But then I'm just saying, just as a techie, as a software engineer, go and build a Tinder profile and look at their console and see the different type of APIs do they have. So they have a core API. This core API, just see the job of this core API. This core API is getting you like 28 users. I have got 28 users. You know, these profiles, some people think that, okay, when I left swipe or right swipe, these profiles are coming one by one, right? If I left swipe, then an API call is made to fetch the next profile. No, my dear friends. There is one API call which is giving you 30 profiles. And as in when you left swipe or right swipe, the next user is coming up. Okay. So basically, let me just tell you that how Tinder is built. In this Tinder, it gets you like 28 profile. I don't know why they are sending 28. I don't know, some magic number. They might have sent 10, 20, 30. They are sending 28 for some reason. And out of these 28, see, the first user over here, if you will go and check, the first user over here is Himangi. This is the same Himangi which you are seeing the card over here, right? This is the Himangi's profile. Now, let me just make it on the left side or right side so that I can show you properly. Okay, let us keep it like this, right? Cool. Now I am able to see the mobile view of this profile, okay? So now, see, this is Himangi's profile, okay? This is Himangi's profile. And the second profile, the next profile over here is of Ansh. Okay. So if I will left swipe or right swipe, see, do you see Ansh written over here? See, I am just playing with the card. After Himangi, there is an Ansh already present over there. Do you see that? If I remove Himangi over here, you can see the Ansh 20 written over here. This is Ansh profile. So what I'm trying to say, Tinder basically makes a core API call and then get you. This is the feed API. Okay. So this is the API that we will make. This is a very important API. As soon as you go to the Tinder, it will call the feed API. It gets you the profiles of other users on platform, right? So basically this gets you the feed or the profile of others user of the platform, and it does not get you one by one. It basically fetches like 10, 20, 30 profiles at a time, and then as in when you are doing left swipe, right swipe, it will keep changing, right? It will keep going from one user to second to third, then fourth. And suppose if you are finished with like 28 users, then it will make this same API call again, get more 28 users, right? So this is how things work, okay, on tinder.com. So see, if I left swipe or right swipe Himani, right? And let me show you one more interesting thing. Are you ready? Let me show you one more interesting thing. Okay, see this. So over here, do you see a underscore ID? What comes to your mind whenever you see underscore ID? Tell me. Yes, my dear friends, MongoDB comes into my mind. Whenever I see this underscore ID anywhere in any application, MongoDB comes into my mind. Remember, we also in our database have this underscore ID kind of a thing. And this is automatically ID generated by MongoDB for all the documents that we have. For all the documents, this ID is automatically generated, and Tinder is using MongoDB, right? I am not 100% sure, but I am 99% sure that Tinder would be using MongoDB, right? Or any other similar NoSQL database. Okay, and this is kind of like a small, proof kind of a thing. But I'm not sure about Tinder, right? Maybe you can Google out and maybe reach out to somebody who works for Tinder, right? You would get to know. But Tinder is using MongoDB, and this is the MongoDB ID, right? It is very similar to the IDs which we get, right? 66E411. See this. 66DFF, right? Something like that, right? So it is a MongoDB ID. I am not 100%, but then 99% sure for sure, right? So they are also using MongoDB. We are also using MongoDB. We are very close, right? Of building our own Tinder. Okay, so this is Himangi. So let me right swipe or left swipe Himangi. So see, if I right swipe Himangi, right? If I right swipe Himangi, so see, MongoDB's API is like, and then it is sending you this. See this. It is sending you. This is the ID of Himangi. This is the object ID of Himangi. Okay, this is the object ID. Can I confirm? Let me copy this and let me show it to you. Where is the core API? Here is the core API. Can I search over here? Can I search in the response? This is the core API. If I search for it, see, I have got this ID, and this ID is of which user? This ID is of Himangi. See this. Himangi, this ID. Right? Himangi, this ID. Do you see this? This is the ID of Himangi. If I right swipe Ansh, right? If I right swipe Ansh, oh, it's a match. See this. I have got, it's a match. Oh my God. Ansh has already sent up, right? Ansh has already sent us. I think Ansh is also our student. Ansh, it's a match. I have got a match with Ansh. Oh my God. This is interesting stuff, right? So we have got a student with us. Most probably they would be a student and they would be laughing seeing what is Akshay doing on Tinder, right? So I have got a match with Ansh, and maybe now I can, Ansh likes you too. This is such an interesting thing, right? I just created Tinder profile like few days back, and I am just right swiping somebody, and Ansh actually matched, right? This is really interesting. Okay. So now I can send some data. Hey Ansh, how are you doing? Right? I can also send some data. So I can even, I am not making this right away, but there can be other APIs for sending see this. I have sent the data, sent the connection request, sent a message over there. See this, matches, right? So I have got this Neeru, and I have got Ansh also, right? See this. Now I can open this chat window. So we are not building this chat feature right now, But see this, I have got all these people, these are the matches, these are the connections, and I can also send messages to them. Right now we are not building these message kind of a feature and send them message and do all of it, right? But I'm just telling you the APIs, right? Let us not get distracted. Let us not get distracted. So basically, you know, these are the APIs. Okay, let us get back. Let me close Tinder because we have explored this Tinder enough, right? And over here, we have got our APIs now. Let us just start building them one by one. But do you see one interesting thing over here? That, there are so many APIs now. I think there would be how many APIs? 3 and 3, 6 and 6 and 4, 10 and 3. There are 13 APIs right now. But in a very big application, there can be like 20, 30, or even like hundreds of APIs in a very big application. And how we are managing our API is a very, very, very bad way of handling APIs. Right now, what we are doing is we have just one app.js file and we are writing all our APIs over here. Suppose if there are 100 APIs, so shall we write 100 APIs in the same file? Shall we write 100 APIs in the same file? Right? We have created sign up API over here, login API, profile API in app.js. Shall we keep adding more and more API in the same file? That is a very bad and a poor way of handling APIs. What you instead do is you create Express router and you handle routing in a proper way. Right? You handle routing in a proper way using Express router. And now I am going to talk about Express router. Open your ears, my dear students, right? All the students, all my friends, open your ears because I am going to teach you an important thing which is known as Express router. Okay, so let me just take you through the documentation first and show you. This is the Express documentation. If you will go to Express documentation in Express, just go to over here express.router. Okay, so you can directly go to this website also. Otherwise, you can go to Express router. So there is something known as express.router. Where is it? Yep, this is express.router. We will use this Express router to manage our APIs efficiently, right? And we will group our APIs into different type of routers. Okay, so what we will do is, let me just tell you briefly what I will do is, so see, we have these 13 APIs. So what we will do, we will like group these APIs into small categories and we will create separate routers for all of them. Right? And those routers will basically handle these routes. So I will create one router that will handle these 3 routes. I will create another router that will handle these APIs. And how I will distinguish is, see, these are the 3 APIs which are generally related to auth, right? So I can create a auth router, right? I can create a auth router and I will add all these 3 APIs into this auth router. Right? Now I can create a profile router, right? And this profile router will have all these 3 profile APIs. I can also add a connection request router, right? Basically a connection request router. Connection request router. And this connection request router will add all these connection request APIs. Right? And I can also make another router for this, right? Maybe connections. This is also kind of like a connection request router, right? No. Basically, these are user, right? User connections, right? Basically, my connections, my received request. So basically, you can also call this as user, right? So, that is why I am also naming my APIs like this. See, profile router, all the APIs which are starting from profile will come into profile router. Right? All the APIs which are open. Okay, I can also call these APIs as something like this, auth/signup. I can also categorize these APIs as auth/login. But let's keep it without auth, right? But you understood, right? What I'm trying to say is I just want to group these APIs somehow, right? And I will create separate router and these separate routers will have their own separate files or they will manage their own separate URLs. Everything will be separate. I will show you right away and this is a better way. if you will develop a very small projects in Node.js, in Express.js, you will not learn all of it. I want to show you how you actually make a project in real world when there are like 20, 30, hundreds of APIs. If you will follow this coding pattern, if you will follow these coding structure, the folder structure, the maintenance of project structure, then you will not be able to, when your project will become big, when there will be like hundreds of APIs, you will not panic. Your code will be clean, your code will be testable, your code will be cleaner, your code will be readable, your code will be modular, your code will be testable, right? Everything comes into the picture if you use these best practices. A best practice is to, there is one way that you can add all these 100 APIs into the same file and everything will work exactly same. Nothing will break, everything will work fine. But as a good developer, you should know what are best practices, best industry practices. I am telling you that a best industry practice is to group all these APIs and create different routers. Okay, so I will create one connection request router. Now I can say user connections, and now I can say user requests, right? So the request which the user have got, right? Received request or request, right? I can just say requests also, right? These are the user. I am getting the user's request. I am getting the user feed. So I can write /user/feed also, okay? So I can just make a user, right? User router over here, right? And now you would say, Akshay, is there a reason why you are grouping them in a certain way? The answer is no. You can group APIs in whatever format you want to. You can keep this user connection API over here also. Nothing is breaking, right? Nothing is breaking. You can keep it like that also, right? But I am just, you just do a logical separation. At the end of the day, it does not matter which router and API belong to and which file the API is written in. At the end of the day, what matters is the logic that is running behind. But this is a good way of handling it, and this is a good way of planning also. So whenever you are building a big project, because we are building a big project DevTinder, categorize, list down all your APIs, group them together, and then start writing code. Your code will be much cleaner, and you don't have to refactor your code once again and again. Otherwise, if you will keep adding like all your routes over here, then it will become a very big problem. Okay, so now we have listed all these down, and I have also told you that, okay, we will be using express.router to create different router, and each of these router will handle these route. So basically auth router will handle these three routes. So basically when I say auth router will handle these three routes, that means that if a request to /login is coming up, the logic of handling this login will be written inside auth router. Similarly, the logic of editing the profile will be written in profile router. And similarly, I will tell you everything that how do you create a router, how do you create different files, how do you write code, everything I will explain you. But at this point of time, I think I have spoken a lot. It has been almost a half an hour. So let us take a quick break. I will give you a homework. The homework is to, without looking at this file, you have to go and explore Tinder, right? Explore Tinder APIs. Just check it. I personally in my life have learnt a lot by just seeing other applications. So whenever I go to tinder.com and most of the time when I am browsing the internet, right, my browser's developer console is always open. When I go to bank website, when I go to any website, I have a extra monitor over here. That monitor is very big. And there is always a developer console open, always, right? So I am interested to see what is going on, right, in different websites, right? Whether it is a social media application or something, and I have learned a lot, right? These are the things. There are so many things that you can learn from these applications. Just like how you design your APIs. Can you name your APIs properly or not? But because see, otherwise you won't categorize your APIs properly. Right? There is a reason you write like this: request/send, request/review, user slash connections. There is a reason, because you can categorize those APIs properly. And if you will name your APIs correctly, there will be no confusion. Just by reading the name of the API, I can understand what this API is doing. I don't have to like randomly use my head to understand and figure out things by reading the logic and the documentation and all. Your API should be very clear that the just by reading this, I should be able to understand what this API is doing. Right? This is the proper planning. So just pause the video over here. I'm just giving you the homework. Explore Tinder APIs. Okay, and explore the data inside it, that how they have structured the data, what all fields they have kept, so many things, right? There is an interesting thing that a lot of people don't even know, that inside Tinder, a lot of people think that, okay, when I right swipe, now Tinder will make an API call, get the next profile for me and show it up. No, it doesn't work like that. Otherwise, suppose if you are doing left swipe, right swipe, left swipe, right swipe, and there would be so many API calls which will be made. No, Tinder just makes one API call, gets like 20-30 profiles, and then just lets you play on their app. But 20-30 profile data is already there with Tinder. Once you have finished doing left and right swipe in your 30 profile, then it moves on to another 30 profiles, right? That's how Tinder works. So this knowledge you will only get when you will actually explore the API, right? When you will explore Tinder. Okay, so this is what you do. Explore Tinder APIs. Then you have to create a list of, you will have to do the same. Just don't look at my API list over here, right? Don't look at my API list. I think I have misspelled the name of list over here. Let me rename it. I am getting a OCD. I have a very big OCD of bad names, okay? Your names should be correct, right? Create a list of all APIs you can think of in dev Tinder, right? So right now I have written these 13 APIs, but if there are more APIs which are coming to your mind, write them down also, and please write it down. Prepare a list, right? Now you have to group these APIs, group multiple routes under respective routers. Okay, under respective routers, group multiple routes. Okay, so there is a group which I have made inside auth router, and let us make it like this. I am very bad at markdown, but I think this is a subheading. Hash means a heading and hash means a subheading. I just guess so, right? I'm not really good at markdown. Okay, cool. So these are the routers, okay, and these are the routes which are here, right? And then this is your homework. Just do till here. I have spoken a lot. Take a moment, take a pause, digest whatever I have said till now in this video. Now we will come back. I will show you interesting thing. How do you create an express router? How do you create separate files for these routers? How do you actually modify your APIs, right? Write your APIs in a good way, in a structured way. How your folder structure should look like. Everything we will do, and we will start creating APIs, okay? Hope you are enjoying this. Come back very soon, okay? Let's take a short break. Welcome back, my dear friends. Hope you would have listed down the APIs. Now let us just start creating our routers. Let us just start creating our routes, and it will be very amazing when you will see that. Okay, so now it will give you a very definite project structure also, right? And it will you will be able to better group these APIs, and your code will become much more modular and structured, right? Your folder structure will also be good. So to manage routing of so many APIs, right? So if you have to manage API routing of all these APIs, let me tell you a good way, right? And that will also keep your app.js very clean. Your app.js should be clean, okay? It should not be messed up. So it is right now messed up with all these API logic. All these API logic will be offloaded to some other files, okay? So let us create routes. So first of all, in your SRC folder, I am creating a routes folder over here. This routes folder will basically manage all the routers and different routes. Okay, all the routes will be managed by this routes folder. Inside that, first of all, let us create auth.js. This auth.js will manage the routes specific to auth, right? So these are these are routes which are specific to authorization, right? So this auth router, we will create a auth router, and all these routes will be managed inside over here. Okay, inside the auth. So how will you create a express router? First of all, let me tell you. So how do you create a express router? For that, first of all, you need express RESS. Express is equals to require express. Now I will create a router, or you can also call this as auth router, right? And you know, you can do express.router over here, right? This is how you create a router. And what we will do, I will just module.export this router from here, right? This file will basically do export the auth router from here. Now, what we used to do earlier, how we used to create API, we had this app over here and we were doing something like app.post, app.get, and we were managing these routes. Similarly, my dear friends, over here in the router, what we will do, we will basically do auth router.get, auth router.post, auth router.patch. This auth router.get is exactly same as doing, there is almost negligible difference, right? There is almost no difference if you will do app router.get post and you do a app.get, app.post, app.use. Router and app works exactly the same way, right? Behind the scenes, there is a different logic written, obviously, but for our end user, I am the consumer, I am writing express code. For me, it is no difference, right? So now what I will do, I was writing the sign up logic over here. I will just take all my sign up logic from here. I will command X. I am cut pasting, right? I have cut there. And now I will write it over here, right? And I will create my sign up API over here and I will call this as auth router.post, right? So what I am trying to say, you were doing app.post. This is exactly same. There is no difference in this, right? There is no difference in this API. I can do auth router.post. See, what you were doing, see, where is this app coming from? This app is coming from Express, right? So see, let me just tell you one important thing, okay? Let me just tell you basic concept because you know a lot of students find it very difficult, okay? So we have included this Express. How do I get the app? I can do app is equals to express, right? This app is coming when I call this express, right? And I get my router when I get express.router. Okay, so this app is coming from express and this router is coming from express.router. But if I do app.use, it is almost exactly same as doing router.use. Okay, the logic, how you write code, how the code behaves, the concept of middleware, the concept of route handler, everything works the same way. If you have to write something like this route, or maybe if you have to make a test route, so you will have to make a middleware. Suppose you say auth middleware, right? Auth middleware, right? And then you have a request handler over here, right? Just like it will work for app.use, similar it will work for router.use. There will be almost no difference, right? Almost no difference, right? These are one and the same thing. Express manages it internally somehow. So don't worry about anything over there, right? This is a way for you to destructure your application and you will realize the importance of it very soon. Okay. So now what we are doing is, let us just remove this app from here because I don't need to create another application, right? So over here I have created a router, right? You can either call this as auth router, right? Auth router, and then use auth router.post, auth router.get, auth router.use, whatever you want to do. Otherwise, what you can do is you can even just call this as router. You can just call this as router and let us just call this as router. And let us just assume that this is inside auth file. So this router means auth router. Okay. So you can assume it, or if you want to explicitly mention it auth router, then you can mention it also, right? It is up to you. See, this name can be anything. Why I am writing this router, but see, if I tell you my opinion, write it like this, right? So you will understand it better. But when you will go in companies and when you will work in companies, you will generally find people writing router like this. They don't specifically mention auth router. They don't specifically mention what type of router it is. Is it a auth router, user router, profile router, what router? They don't mention it in companies. But because you are a beginner, write it, right? Write it like this. Whenever I teach Node.js to someone, I ask people to write it like this because it is no harm. It is specifically telling me what is auth router. Okay. Now, this auth router has a sign up API. Let us also get other APIs also, right? This is login API. Let us also get this API over here, right? This is app.post. You just have to change this auth and then router. Okay. So now I have got this sign up and login API over here. Now, let us also create a profile router, right? For this profile. Okay. Shall we create? Let us create a new file over here, right? Let's call this as profile.js. Okay. And over here also I will create a profile router. How do you create a router? Again, let me just tell you, express require express. And what you will do, you will just create a const, right? Const. And then I will say it's a profile router. Okay. And then in the profile router, I will say express.router, express.router. And I will copy paste this. Okay. This is login API. Let me not copy paste login API. Let me just go over here. Let me just cut this and paste it over here. Right. And then call this as profile router.get. Okay. And this now, whenever the profile will come, it will be handled by this route. I will show you how that will happen very soon, right? I will do profile router. Now let us also categorize this, right? This is send connection request. Basically the API name is changed now. So let us give it a better name. Send connection request is this API. And this is inside a connection request router. Okay, so in the routes, I can say connection request, or I can just say request, right? Maybe shall we call this as request? Yep, let's call this as request.js. Okay, and then I can just make it as constant express. Again, one and the same thing. Okay, you know why I can just copy paste the code also, but I just want you to write like this, just like I am writing it. See, I can copy paste, but I am just writing all of this again and again, because when I write all of this, right, constant express is equal to require express, constant, I will write now request router, right? Request router. So this will make me a habit of, remembering stuff. Okay, I will be able to remember the functions and all these things, right? It is very helpful if I write all the code manually. That is why whenever I'm teaching, I don't generally use autocomplete, and I use it less, right? I don't rely on autocomplete or something, right? And then you can do module.export, and then you can send request router from here, right? And in my request router, I can just add this API for now. We will edit this API later on. Don't you worry about that. Right, where is my request router? Here is the request router. And cool. So I can just say request router dot post. Cool. So we have got all these over here. Now there is one major thing, and see, now my app.js is very clean, right? It has very less code, and our app.js should be clean, right? Your app.js should be clean. It is meant to be clean. Okay, so don't you worry about that. Now, there is one bad thing which happened. One bad thing is all the imports will not work. See, I have imported this validate sign up from somewhere. I have to fix all these things, right? I have to validate sign up over here, right? Let us go back. This validate sign up was coming from here. Let me just paste it in my auth, right? This is my auth file. So just do this carefully, because these imports can mess up, right? And it will mess up your code. And I will need my user in, I think, almost everywhere, right? I will need the user in my auth router also, right? Am I using the user? Yes, I am using this user over here, right? So I will need the user over here. I will need this user in my profile also, right? No, I don't need the user over here. Do I need it user over here? I'm not using the user model over here. So no problem, right? This bcrypt, okay? Do I need bcrypt in some library? No, I don't need bcrypt. I need bcrypt in authentication. Yes, I need bcrypt over here. So let me just use bcrypt. Where is bcrypt? Oh my God. I forgot to copy paste, right? This is bcrypt. And let me just add bcrypt over here. I know I'm doing a lot of manual work, but please keep watching, okay? Don't get bored. Where I will need this JWT token, right? Do I need JWT token? Do I need JWT token over here? Am I using something JWT over here? Yes, I am doing get JWT. No, I don't. Okay, so get JWT. JWT is needed to import over there, right? So I don't need JWT over here, right? And let us also see user auth. Where do I need? Okay, we are using this middleware. Now we are using this middleware everywhere, right? So I don't need this user auth middleware over here, right? But I need this user auth middleware. Remember, I created this middleware user auth, this middleware which checks the token, right? So I will need this middleware in my profile API, right? Right, in my profile API, I will need this, okay, user auth middleware. And in my request router, right? In my request router also, I would need it, right? Because I will do a user auth from here, right? And over here, if I go to auth.js, middleware, no, okay, this is auth routing. Cool. So I think my everything is fixed now. Okay, so a best way now, now you will link, now we have exported these routers from each file, but we have not imported these routers in my app.js. Now this app.js should somehow know, right? That, so suppose, see, now if /signup will come, it will come to app.js, right? Now how will app.js know which router to give this to, right? So for that, we will have to import all these routers over here, right? So now I will manage the routes over here. I will manage the routes. So what I will do, I will import the router, right? Auth router in my app.js, right? I will import my auth router and I will import it from my require, right? Require and not my auth router. Basically, I would say ./routes/auth. Okay, so here is when I am getting my auth router. Similarly, I will get my profile router, right? And from my route/profile, okay? And then I will also get my request router. And where will I get my request router? I will get my request router from my routes/request. So there is some error, is it? What is the error? Cannot find module utils/validation, right? Just fix these errors because it can become a lot of problem. App.js. Where is my app.js? Why it needs utils/validation? Utils/validation. What it is saying? Cannot find modules ./utils validation. Okay. Where? In my auth.js. Okay. In my auth.js. Okay, because this should be ./validation now. Okay, this will be ./validation, and this models will also be ./models, right? Because it is one folder deep now. So you will have to do ./model/user, fix all of this, right? Go and fix it over here also, right? You'll have to fix this, right? See, we are refactoring the code now, right? But if you are creating the Express.js application from day one, start using router. I introduced this concept of router so late in the course. That was for a reason, because I wanted to teach you the real use case of router. Whenever you will go to other Node.js course, they will teach you these routing techniques in the first episode itself, first or second episode, or first or second videos, initial videos only. But at that point of time, you don't understand. A lot of Node.js developers don't even know that I can create an API like this, app.use, and I can create an API. No, they don't know it. They always start writing router. I wanted to give you the clear picture of that router is used for managing the routes when there are so many routes and you group them together, right? And to teach you all of it, I waited for these like 10, 12 episodes, and now I am teaching you this concept, okay? That is why I have to refactor. But if you are making a project, if you are making a new Node.js project, so start writing routers, right? Start using routers from day one itself, right? That is general practice, right? So you don't generally have to do all of it. But I wanted to realize this to you. That is why I am just, teaching you in this fashion. Now let us fix these errors. There is one more error, /route request. Where is it? Route request. Okay, this is not .. Is it? Request. Requests. Okay. So my bad. It is request. No, it should be request. Let us change this to request. Okay. There is extra S in front of it. Okay. Request. Cool. So I think now everything is working fine. All the imports are fixed. Everything looks good to me. Now what I will do, I have imported these routes. Now I will use these routes, right? How do you use these routes? You can do app.use, and then I can add /, and then I can add my router like a middleware, right? Just like I write any other middleware, I can write a router like this. Why do we use app.use? You know why I was telling you? Routing, middleware, request handlers, Express has a very beautiful way of doing and handling all of it. Just, whenever a request is coming at /, go to auth router and check all the routes inside auth router, that is there a route which is matching, right? First of all, let me just do it for every route, and then I will show it to you. Okay. So over here, let me just write my profile router, right? Profile router. And over here, let me just add it. Then I will explain it to you. Request router. See, now if suppose an API comes in, which is known as /login. So what it will do, it will come over here. It will check that, okay, / it will go to auth router. And then it will check for all these APIs over here. Sign up. Is it login? No. Is it login? Yes. This is login. Then it will run the code over here. And if the response is sent from here, then it will not go any further. Got it? Now let me tell you one more example. Listen to me very carefully. A recap. Suppose if somebody wants to read the profile. Suppose somebody is making a call to /profile. Right? So what will happen? The code will come over here. It will first of all go over here, check /. Yes, it is matching the route. So / means it will run for all the routes. Okay. So this / means it will run for all the routes. So first of all, it will check for /profile route inside auth router. There is a /profile? No. There is a /profile? No. Now, if you don't find it, it will just go to the next one. It will check inside profile. Is there a profile /profile? Yes. So it will go inside this and it will return the results. So Express.js, try to go one by one. As I told you in the previous episodes also, that the main job of Express is to, whenever you get a route, it just tries to go and check for all the routers, all the middlewares, all the request handlers. And the only job is to send the response back from wherever it gets the first. Sends the response back from wherever it gets the first, right? From wherever controller, from wherever middleware, you can send the response back. You can just handle the route from here, right? That's how Express works. And that is what we have learned so far. But now, if you will see, my dear friends, our project is growing. Do you see so many files, So many folders, so many things, and we have learnt over all these episodes, we have learnt so many concepts of middlewares, of routers, of mongoose, of schema, of models, of app.use, app.get, app.this and that, and route API, this, that. I have dived deep into every concept, and in this episode, I have deep dive into express.router. I would request you all, urge you all to go over here, right? Go over here in the documentation, read the documentation of Express Router. You will get to know a lot more amazing things, right? Please, I would request you to, urge you to, whatever I am doing, please go check and refer the documentation also. That will just increase your knowledge much, 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 much more deeper. Okay, so this is how we will do. But first of all, I have changed, right? I have done a lot of refactoring. I am just very conscious that my API should work now, right? Let us just test these API one by one. At least let's test the API of auth, sign up and login API. If I sign up, let us sign a new user up, Virat Kohli. Let us sign up MS Dhoni, right? MS Dhoni, right? DHONI, Dhoni. Okay, and then I can say Dhoni, and then I can say DHONI, Dhoni. Okay, DHONI, sorry, typo, right? At the rate 123. If I hit send, okay, failed. Why? MS is shorter than minimum allowed length of 4. Okay, I have just I have kept the validation for the minimum length of first name should be 4, and it has bite me, right? Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Okay, let's write full name. Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Okay, send. User added successfully. So my sign up API is working perfectly fine. Let me just validate inside my MongoDB also. I have got Mahendra Singh Dhoni with me. Okay, let us just log in and see if Dhoni is logging in successfully or not. Dhoni @gmail.com. Dhoni, ONI. Dhoni @123. Send. It says login successful. Cool. Let us check my profile API also. Right? If I go hit the profile API, yep, it is sending me the result back of Mahendra Singh Dhoni. So my profile API is also working fine. And let us just ignore the send request API. We will come back to that later on. But our APIs are working fine. Our imports, exports, everything is working fine. Our routing is also working fine. And now we are using Express Router. We are not just using app.get, app.post and other methods. Okay, so this was one important thing which I wanted to teach you, my dear friends, and hope you would have enjoyed this Express Router. Now, what we will do, let us take a short break, right? And you will have to implement this routing in your own project, okay, whatever you are building. I will give you homework right away, and then we will come back, and what we will do is, we will start writing APIs. We will start building APIs one by one. Okay, we will start building APIs one by one. Where is the API list? Here, right? So we will start building these APIs one by one. Okay, so let's not waste time. Let us take a short break. Let me give you the homework first of all. Just understand your homework before you leave, right? So your homework over here is you have to explore, right? Explore or read documentation. Read documentation for express.router, right? Then you have to create router, create app router, create routes folder for managing auth, profile, request routers, right? There will be routers inside these route folder, and then what you have to do, create routers, right? Create routers, create auth router, profile router, and then you have to create your request router. And similarly, we will also create feed router, more routers if we need to, right? Request router, right? Create all these routers and then import these routers in app.js, right? This is your roadmap. This is your homework. Just try to, whenever I give homework, always try to do it without looking at my code. okay, without watching the video. Watch the video, take a pause at this moment, try to go back, whatever you have learned, try to write it yourself. If you get stuck, try to Google it. If you get stuck, try to read the documentation and try to do it. And if you still can't do it, then come back, rewatch the video and do along. Okay? But try yourself first of all, just by looking at this homework. Okay? So please do this, and then we will come back very soon and I will teach you and start building different APIs. Okay. I know it has been 1 hour already, but we will take few more minutes to make some APIs. Okay. And then we will wrap up this session. But for now, let me just, using express.router. For now, let me just commit this code. Okay. I have added this commit. Right. So let us take a short break and come back very soon and write our API logic. Okay. Bye-bye. Welcome back, my dear friends. Hope you would have created your own routers and you have created your own files, and your folder structure would be looking something like this. Now we are slowly moving towards the core concepts of DevTinder. We are slowly moving towards building the features and APIs more interestingly. And we have learned a lot of cool stuff. Now is the time for, application of everything. Right? So let us just start building APIs. Now let me go to API list. We have already created a sign up API. We have already created a login API. Now let us create a logout API. Okay. Shall I create a logout API? But first of all, let me just ask you, my dear friends, think about it, that how we were logging in and how we will log out. Can you think about the logic of it? Now starts the interesting portion. Whenever we will be making an API, we will use a lot of our brains to think about what logic should happen inside these APIs. See, anybody can teach you Express, anybody can teach you routing, anybody can teach you a lot of concepts which we have taught, right? Middleware and all of it. But learning and teaching how to write APIs is a very core thing, because this will change from application to application. Right? Sending a connection request. How do you write code for sending a connection request? Will be very different. It is very specific to DevTinder. Okay. So what I am saying is, whenever I will be writing code for APIs, very, very carefully listen to it, because it's a very important thing to learn how to write APIs. If you understand and if you can write APIs, that is what all backend engineers do. Writing the logic of building these APIs is the main core job of a backend engineer. To get the data from the database, how do you query it, how do you massage it, how do you make these features? This is the main core job of a backend engineer. Okay, so be really good, and whenever I am building the APIs, be very conscious about it. Okay, so now we are building the logout API. Let's build the logout API. Let us go to auth.js, right? Inside my routes, let me close all the files. Okay, over here I have sign up, sign in, login, and now I will create a logout, right? Auth router dot logout API. Now it is a post API and it should log me out /logout. Just think about the logic for it. Okay, meanwhile I am writing this up, just think about the logic. Can you think how will I write the code for, logout? How did we log in? Think about it first of all, right? How did we log in? We wrote the code of login, right? So whenever we were logging in, we were expecting user to pass an email ID and password, right? Then when we get the email ID, I was checking whether the user is there on database or not. Right? So we said that, okay, if the user is not there, that means invalid credential. If the email ID is not present in our database, invalid credential. Suppose if somebody came with xyz@gmail.com and it is not registered, so our login API should throw an error. Similarly, if the user exists, suppose if virat@gmail.com or msdhoni@gmail.com exists in our database, but the password is incorrect, then also we throw a invalid credential. If the login is successful, we basically send the cookie, right? We basically create a cookie with a token, and then we will create a cookie in the token and we will send it, and we will send the success response and the user logs in. And that cookie, whenever you are logging in, whenever you click on this login, a new cookie is created by the server and given it to the client. This is the client. This is the client. Whenever I say client or the user, this is the postman which I am talking about. So postman or the client or the user is requesting an API, login API with an email ID and password. Now, if the email is correct, password is correct, I am getting the cookie back and that cookie is stored inside my postman. Now, and the user logs in. Now, whenever you will make any other API call, suppose if you are making call to profile, right? If you send it, the same cookie is passed and the user is authorized and the data is retrieved. Remember, this is how things work. Login may, in the login API, I got the cookie. What will I do in the logout API? Why I am telling you all the theory is because I am telling you to think about how logout will work. Nobody will teach you this. Nobody can teach you to write logic. You have to build it. A good software engineer is a problem solver. You are solving a problem. You are not a, you are not an Express expert. I don't want you to be an Express expert or a Node.js expert. There is no point of it unless you can do something productive out of it. You will be a real software engineer if you can solve problem using expert, right? Using Express, using these APIs, building these APIs. Let me tell you, who is a good cook? A good cook is not somebody who is very efficient as using a pan or a cooker or a microwave or something. No. A good cook is someone who cooks good food, right? A good cook is someone who cooks good food. Doesn't matter what utensil he is using. Doesn't matter what knife. Is he using a knife or is he using something else? The food should be good. That is when he's a good cook. Similarly, a good software engineer is someone who is not good at Express or something, who is good at solving problems. The problem to solve over here is to create an API which logs the user out. Now, as a software engineer, you should solve this problem using Express. Now, you should be good at Express, right? But then you should solve the problem at the end of the day. And writing the logic is the most important part of building the application, right? So how would you log out? See, if it is not coming to your head, I would say that pause this video right now and try to think about it for 2 minutes. If you get a solution, write it down in your notebook. If you don't get a solution, don't worry, you can watch the video, right? You can again play the video and I will tell you the solution, but think about it once. Because see, now whenever I will make an API, whenever I will write logic for an API, it will be very useful that you use your brain, right? Whenever I am writing code, just seeing me write code, take inspiration from me. Your code can be very different. Your logic of writing can be very different, trust me. Everybody have their own ways of writing code, okay? But I will try to give you my thought process and you also take my thought process and try to write your own APIs, okay? So now, and never copy me. When you will be doing homework, try to do it by thinking by yourself. Don't remember the code or something, right? That's a poor way of writing APIs or learning backend, okay? So now, see, while I was logging in, how the user logs in? The user logs in using a JWT token and a cookie, right? And now server has control over, I can set the cookie. Logout API is not this complex. Logout API is very easy. And when I will write the code for logout API, you will laugh at it, right? You will laugh that how easy was it, right? As soon as the user is trying to log out, now, do I need authentication for this API? First thing, do I need authentication for this API? Right? Do I need authentication? Should the user be logged in to use the logout API? Tell me. Ideally, you can think, yes, the user should be logged in, right? Then only we would want anybody to call logout API. Okay. But, okay, so let the user, okay, but what will happen if the user is not logged in and he tries to call the logout API? Will it be a harm for our application? Will it be a harm for our application? Tell me. If the user is not logged in, right? And still somebody is, trying to calling logout API, is there a harm? Think about it, right? Let me give a moment to you. See, there is no harm. You can let the user log out. If he is logged in, then also they can call logout. If they are already logged out, then also they can call logout. I don't see a problem with it. You can So if you ask me personally whether I should put authentication over here or not, I really don't care. Because once you will see the logic, what I am writing inside it, you will also not care much about it. Okay. So let me write the logic. I am not explaining you. Just try to, let me write the logic and just see me writing, and then try to understand what I am writing. Okay. I am just writing something. Do you see the logic? Do you understand what did I write? Do you understand what did I write? Just think about it once. If you don't understand what I am writing, that means you are not watching the videos properly. Go watch the previous videos. But if you have watched the previous videos, I don't have to explain you this code. I don't have to explain you this code, isn't it? Does this code need an explanation? You already know each and every single line and single word that I'm writing, isn't it? Logout is this simple, my dear friends. This is what I was telling. You don't have to check for whether the user is logged in, whether the user exists in the DB. Some people, think about that, okay, first of all, in the logout API, I will check whether the user is logged in or not. If the user is logged in, then I will check whether the token is present or not. If the token is present, then I will check whether the token is expired or not. And if the token is valid, then I will check that, okay, I will just set the cookie to null. No, you don't have to do anything. Forget about it. The user is hitting a logout API. Doesn't matter if he's log in, log out. Just set the cookie token to null. Just remove the token from the cookie and expire the cookie right there. Just expire the cookie right there. Right? You will expire the cookie right there and the user will be logged out. There is no need of authentication. If you want to keep authentication, keep it. I don't mind. But then I really don't want authentication in my logout API because it is not doing anything, right? It is just setting the cookie token to null and I'm expiring it at this point of time. Do you understand the meaning of this? I am setting the expiry time as the current time. That means it will not work. The cookie will not work after even 1 millisecond. Got it? This is the expiry time. And I am sending the response back. See, one more thing I can tell you is that, either you can write res.cookie and in the next line you can write res.send. Otherwise, you can chain these method also, right? In Express, you can chain these method also. What do you mean by chain? See, you can do something like this, okay? It is one and the same thing. Res.cookie and then .send. You can also write like this. But because you are a beginner, and because whenever I teach somebody Node.js, so I always try to write like this because this is much more easier to read, right? But why I am telling you the chaining? Because when you will go to companies, when you will write code in production, when you will see big projects, they chain, right? A lot of developers chain this, right? It's a common practice to write it like this, right? You will find this type of code written in companies, right? What they are doing is response.cookie. They are setting the cookie and then sending the response. Okay. But for now, let me just write it like this because you all are beginners, because there are a lot of college students reading this code. So I want everybody to understand what I am teaching. Okay. But this was coming to my mind. So that is why I told you, you can also use chaining over here. So I've created the logout API. Let us just try to see this, right? So first of all, let me log in using this Dhoni, right? I have logged in. If I go to my cookies, okay, I don't see any cookie over here. Again, see, this is the problem of Postman, okay? If I will not do anything and if I'll just go back to cookies, it will show me. See, I've got the token. This token is here, right? It has an expiry also, right? Now let me close it up. Let me call the logout API. Right? Or let me call the profile API and see if it is working. See, I am logged in. I am getting the profile data. Now let us call the logout API. It's a post API /logout. Right? Let us duplicate this. I don't know. I just duplicate always, right? Logout, and let us just log out. If I go to body, I don't need to send anything. Let me remove it. If I hit the logout, what will happen? If I hit the logout over here, what I'm sending, I'm not sending anything. Let me just send something. Logout successful, right? Logout successful. And there is nothing. And you would say that Akshay, you have not written try catch block, you have not written error handling, because you really don't need it. As soon as somebody is hitting logout, I'm just removing the cookies from their system, right? That is what I'm doing. So if I do logout, if I hit send, it says logout successful. And if I will go to my postman, it is showing me the cookies because it does not update immediately. Yep, see this. Now the cookies has expired. You don't even see the cookie over here. And if you go to profile, send, it says token is not valid. That means you are invalid, right? Token is not valid. The token is not there, right? So let me just show it to you once again. If I log in, if I hit enter, if I go to profile, I will see the profile. See, I see the profile, but if I go to logout, if I send it, now I am logout successful. If I go to my profile, if I hit the profile, now I am get error. Do you see this? This is how things we wanted to work, right? If I log in, all the API should work. My profile API should work. But if I log out, my profile API should not work, right? This is the simple logic. Now, before moving ahead, let me give you one more important thing. Let's see. We have built this logout mechanism very easily, right? It's a very easy thing, right? We have built it like this. I have just removed the cookie. But when you build a very big production application, suppose maybe a tinder.com or maybe a Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, right? So their logout API will not look like this. Their logout API will have a lot more things inside it, right? There can be a different complicated logic also. Because see, the authentication in social media applications are very different. Their login API will also be very different. Their logout API will be very different. Okay, but for our small application, for Dev Tinder, this works very well. This login logout will work very well, and this will work very well. This is a official standard way of doing it. Okay, but suppose if you are managing some sessions inside the DB, you are managing some data inside the DB, there is core something, then you might want to clean up more things before you are logging out, right? So in some big companies, you do generally clean up activities over here. Suppose if you are doing a logout, then you do some kind of a cleanup from the database. You want to send logs, you want to maybe do something else. I don't know what I can do it for Dev Tinder for now over here. This is a perfectly valid API, right, for us. But I'm just telling you that, okay, logout APIs are generally simple because you just do cleaning activities and you just remove the cookies, you expire the tokens, and that is all you do. Okay, so this was our logout APIs. Now let us go and build one more API. Okay, because we have taken a lot of time. This episode is getting a little longer. But let's create one more API and then we will wind up. Okay. Cool. Let us build one more API. So what is the API list? Where is the API list? Okay. So we have this auth, sign up, login, logout. We have created these three APIs. Now let us go to profile. We have created a profile view API also. Let us create a profile edit API. Okay. Shall we create a profile edit API? Cool. So profile view. Let us create it profile VIEW. Okay. Let's change this to profile view. Now let us create one more API, profile edit, right? Profile router dot patch. So this is basically a edit, profile/edit, right? This is the route. And then I need to be logged in. So there should be user auth over here, right? I need to be login, and this is my request handler. Cool. So now this is my profile edit API. Profile router dot path is not a function. This should be patch, PATCH, patch. Cool. This is patch. And now I will write logic. Now pause a moment and think about the logic. What logic should be there? How will we edit the API, right? This is the edit API. And remember, in previous episodes also, I have also created a user edit API, right? This API will be very similar to that API. Let us write the logic once again. right? So suppose if there is an API, first of all, what will this API receive, right? There will be some data which it will receive, right? So let us create a patch API. Okay, let's create a new HTTP request. Let's create a patch and let me tell you the signature of it. Okay, profile and let's say /edit, right? Okay, I've got this edit. Now let us go to body. Over here I will go to raw, I will go to JSON. What else? So I can either modify my age over here, right? I can add my age. Okay, I can send the age. Age is a number. Age is number. I can say 29 and let me add. Okay, because this is JSON, you have to wrap it inside these strings. Okay, age. Then I can also change the gender, right? Gender over here, and this gender can be male. Okay, and then I can also send the photo URL. Photo URL. Okay, I can add the photo URL and let me add the photo URL. Remember, I took the photo from my blog, right? akshayseni.in. akshayseni.in. Let's take the same photograph. I don't know. I just open image in new tab. Let us take this profile image. Okay, so let's go back and over here profile URL, photo URL, and then over here I can also add skills, right? This is the data that I can pass, and I can pass an array of strings. I can say JavaScript is my skill, and then I can add React. I can add maybe React, JavaScript, front end, back end, Node, or let's add Node. Okay, so we have got this. Save. Okay, let us just save it over here. I have saved my profile edit over here. Profile/edit. Okay, this is my profile edit API and this is my profile view API. Okay, /view API or फिर save. Cool. This is my profile view API. Profile and /view. Let me write it properly. Profile view API, and this is my profile edit API. Sign up, log in, log out, profile view, profile edit. Okay, this is my profile edit. Now in this body is this. Now if I will hit send, what should happen? First of all, I will do data sanitization, right? First of all, I will do data validation and data sanitization. First of all, I will do validate my edit, profile edit data. Profile edit data. Edit data. Okay, validate my profile edit data, and I will send a request over there. Right, and I will write everything inside a try catch block. Let me just quickly write it. Okay, I will explain less and I will write more, because if I will explain and write, then it becomes slow for me also. Okay, I can when I don't speak and I write it faster. But okay, just a minute. Oh my god, cool. So now validate my edit profile. Right, and I will just validate my edit profile data. Edit profile data. I will call this function, and let us create this function first of all. We haven't created this function. This function will be created in our utils. Okay, we were using utils, right, in the validation. Validate sign up data. So similarly, let us create a constant validate profile data, and over here also I will take a request, right? And what I will do is I will just first of all, I will check in this request. I don't want user to edit everything, right? In my user schema, there are so many things, right? If you go to the user schema, we saw that there are so many more things, right? There are so many first name. So I will allow user to edit first name, last name. I will not allow email ID. I will allow photo URL, gender, age, and skills. Okay, and about also, right? There can be about also. Okay, so let us also change the about. This is the about. Right, over here I can just change this about also. Let us write software engineer by profession and a teacher by heart. Okay, I can write anything, right? I'm just writing the about of myself, right? Teaching you Node.js. Okay, I just love teaching, my dear friends. I just love to teach people. Age, gender, photo, about, skills. What else? Do I need to change my first name, last name? No, I don't need to. But okay, these are the things. Now in the validation, first of all, let us check whether the, okay, allowed methods. What are the allowed methods? Allowed methods. Okay. Allowed methods, and then allowed edits, allowed fields, allowed edit fields. Okay. Let me write it properly. I am a very big sucker of this variable names, right? You have to write proper variable names. I really hate when people don't write proper variable names, right? Allowed edit fields, right? What are the allowed edit fields? I don't want everything to be allowed. I will say last name, right? And then I will say email, right? They can edit their email ID, because you have to be conscious, because don't trust the request.body, because request.body can be anything, right? So what I will do is first name, last name, email ID, photo URL, and then I can also allow, see, there can be multiple ways of validating this data. I am not saying that this is the only way. You can write your own logic also, but I like to write it like this. Okay, allowed edit fields, first name, last name, email, photo, gender, and then what else? About and skills, right? About, and then skills, skills, right? So now we have got these allowed fields, okay, allowed edit fields. Now what I will do, I will just loop through this request body. I will just loop through this request body and I will check if all these things are matching this criteria or not, right? I will just say, okay, object.keys. I will loop through these allowed fields and I will check, not allowed fields, sorry. I will loop through all these request.body fields. So basically, I will loop through all these fields, request.body, all these things, age, gender, photo URL, about, skills, and I will check that every field which is coming from my request, if every field is present inside my allowed, right? Every field is there, right? For every field, every field, FIELD, for every field, I will check if my allowed fields includes that field. Okay, if my allowed fields are includes that field, right? I will just check this, and then if this is valid, then only is allowed, right? Is allowed. Is edit allowed, right? Is edit allowed. It will return me Boolean. If you don't understand this logic, I know this can be very complicated for people who don't understand JavaScript very well or who are not very familiar with JavaScript. If you are not very familiar with JavaScript, just try to read on the internet. I am not taking a moment over here to explain you the reason for everything, but just try to read what is object.keys. Object.keys will basically give you these keys: age, gender, photo URL, about, skills. And then what I am doing, I am just checking that every field, that means age, gender, photo, about, skills, all of that which is coming from the body is present over here. If any of the field is not present over here, that means you are not allowed to do that, right? Suppose if the user is also trying to send password, right? I will just show it to you. If the user is trying to send password over here, it will not be allowed. It will throw an error. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say. And valid edit profile data, validate edit profile data. Okay, and then I will just return true or false from here if it is valid or not. Return is edit allowed. Is edit allowed. Okay, is edit allowed. So basically it will return me a Boolean value. Validate edit profile data. Okay, so I can just say validate edit profile data. And if this validation is not passed, right? If this validation is not passed, right? If you return false, then what I will do, I will just return from here that, okay, status 401 send, right? 400. I can just return from here. Okay, you can also return. See, either you can just do throw error, right? Throw new error, right? You can do this, throw new error, and you will say that, okay, invalid edit request, right? Invalid edit request. Okay, so you can either do this, right? Or you can, either you can do this. If you will do this, then what will happen? This this error will go into this catch block and it will send the error back, or you can return from here directly. Okay, this is also a way. You can just directly return from here, right? That invalid edit request. Okay, but let us just throw the error. That's easier for us. Okay, and then catch will catch it. So if the profile data is not valid, error will be thrown. Okay, now the code will only reach over here. The code will only reach over here when my profile data is valid. So now I can safely add this data onto my user object, right? Now, if you know, in the user auth, we already check for the user authentication. We already find the user from the database and we attach that to request.user, isn't it? In the auth, right? User auth. You already know that. So basically, over here, I can just read that, right? So over here, the user is my request.user, right? Isn't it? You know that this user, and why I can get this request.user? This request.user is something which my auth middleware has attached over there, right? This user auth is the same user. Now, if I console log, let me just console log and show it to you. Console.log and show it to user. What comes over here? This user will get me the user details of the logged in user. Okay, this is basically the logged in user. Okay, this is the logged in user. Let me explicitly write it, right? Why not? Logged in user. So the logged in user is over here, right? So what I am doing inside my auth middleware, where is my auth middleware? Let me just close all these things, right? I don't need API list, validation. I don't need validation now. Let us go to auth middleware. This is the auth middleware. Over here, see, this request is equals to user. This is basically the logged in user, right? And I have added over here. So over here, the logged in user is request.user. Let me just print this out, logged in user, and let me just show it to you what will come over here. So let me just call this API profile/edit. Okay, let us just call this API once. If I call this API now, send. So it is giving me error. Why it is giving me error? JSON.parse. Why? It is giving me error. Okay, it is giving me error because this JSON is not correct. Okay, the data which I am passing is not correct. Let me send it. Cool. It says token is not valid. Why? I am not logged in. Let me log in. Dhoni. Let me log in Dhoni's profile. Now I am editing Dhoni's profile, right? So it says that validate edit profile data is not defined. Why? Because I have not imported it. I remember. Okay. I have not imported that function. Okay. My bad. I just forget imports, right? Require, and I want to require from my utils/auth. And I have not even exported from there. My bad. I am forgetting these things. I am forgetting small things. Why are you not reminding me up? Right? You should remind me up. Validate, edit profile data. I am exporting from here and I have to import over here, right? Validate edit profile data. Cool. And now I am seeing some error. Why? It says that /utils auth is not a function, is it? /util auth. Utils validate. Okay, sorry, my bad. Not utils auth. It is utils validate. Utils validation. Okay, cool. Now it should work fine, right? Now we should not see error. The server has started successfully. Let us make this API edit API call. If I click on it, it is sending request, right? My validations have passed successfully and I have got this user. So this is the logged in user. Now I want to edit the details of Mahendra Singh Dhoni. And I want to add the details from here, right? So this is what I wanted to show you, right? Let me just stop this, cancel this. And let me also first of all let us also see if the validations are successful or not, right? So suppose if I try to edit the password also, suppose if somebody try to add the password also. Suppose if the hacker is trying to add the password also and he is that, okay, maybe their edit API just take password, right? Password is hacker@123. Now my API should fail because I am trying to add a field which is not in the allowed list. Okay. So if I send this invalid edit request, okay. Now this is invalid edit request, right? If you try to mess up with any field, it will say invalid edit request. Okay. You can also validate a lot of things. You can do validate that, okay, you can also validate the data, something like that, right? This is a homework for you, right? So the homework can be just validate using this validator library and just check if this URL is actually a URL or not, if the about length is proper or not. Maybe the length of about is somebody is sending a very huge data inside about, right? Maybe the length of skills should be 10, not more than 10. Otherwise people can just pass like thousands of data also, right? Thousands of strings over here, right? So please validate all these things also. I'm not focusing upon that as of now. Now, invalid edit request. Okay, and over here we have logged in user. Now what I will do, I want to edit my logged in user. How will you edit the logged in user? Now I want to do something like this, right? Logged in user dot first name is equals to first name, right? First name is equals to logged in user dot, or maybe, request or this user, right? Whatever I am getting over here, right? This logged in user. Sorry, my bad, don't worry. So logged in user should be which I got from this request, right? I will get this request also, right? So request dot body. So request dot body dot first name. So what I am trying to do, I am trying to add, this is my logged in user. I am trying to add the first name which I have got from the body over here in the first name of logged in user. Similarly, I can do it for every field, right? I can do it for every field, but I can do it like this. But this is a very bad way of doing this. I will write one logic, right? Just understand that logic. So what I will do, I will again, be good at JavaScript. At the end of the day, Express.js, Node.js, React, everything is all about JavaScript. Your JavaScript method should be very good. Okay, your JavaScript method should be very good, my dear friends. Let me just write the logic over here. What I will do, I will again loop over all the keys, right? All the keys which are coming. So whatever, I will loop over all these keys, right? I will loop over all these keys. Sorry, not age, request dot body. Whatever keys are coming inside my request dot body. And then what I will do for each of these key, right? For each of this key, what I will do, I will update my logged in user. So I will add logged in user of that key should be equal to my request.body of key. So just take a moment, pause the video and just understand what I'm doing, right? For all the object.keys.for each, right? So basically object.keys will get me all these keys: age, gender, photo, profile, about, right? So now for each of the key, so this loop will run for once again, right? For age, for gender, for profile. So for age, for gender, for profile, for each of these keys, this code will run, and my logged in user of gender will be equal to the gender which I am getting. So basically logged in user gender will be the gender which is sending from here. So basically this logged in user. So now if I will log in, right? Now if I will do console log, this will have the updated value inside my logged in user, right? This logged in user data, right, will be very different. Let me do a console log and show it to you. Console.log, the logged in user over here, right? The logged in user over here. Okay, and I will do a console.log, the logged in user after this, right? This code should work, right? And then let me also send the response, right? Back. Send the response that, okay, edit was successful. Edit was successful. Successful. Right? Profile updated successfully. Right? Profile updated successfully. Updated successfully. Right? And I can also say that, okay, I can also send a good error message, right? I can also send something like this, right? So I can send it something like this, okay? Akshay, your profile was updated successfully, or Rahul, your profile was exited successfully, or MS Dhoni, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Virat Kohli, your profile is added successfully. I can add a custom message also. How would you do that? Let me just show it to you if you are really interested. So I can just say that like this, right? So I can just use this nomenclature. I can also see, I'm just telling you that you can do all these things. First name the first name of the logged in user. So I will do logged in user dot first name. So basically logged in user dot first name, your profile Akshay, your profile was added successfully, right? Updated successfully, right? You can send these amazing messages also, right? So now let me just show you the log before and after the update, right? And let us just hit this. If I will hit this, right? If I will hit this API, see, Mahendra Singh, your profile was updated successfully. Okay. Now, if you will go and let me show you the data. So see, this was the user before. This was the data afterwards, right? So if you will see in the previous data, the skill was empty. The skill over here is JavaScript React Node. The about section has been also updated. The profile photo has also been updated. And similarly, right? We have updated a lot of things, right? Amazing, 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 right? So cool. Now what we have done is, this will still not show inside DB, right? It will not update because I have not saved the data. So what I will do before sending the response, I have checked the data is coming properly. Let me remove these console logs. What I will do now is this logged in user dot save, right? It's so easy, right? We already know. We just do logged in user. This is the instance of a user, right? I will just do save over here. Once I do save, now this will save the data inside the database. And if it will get an error while saving, oh sorry, I also have to do await, right? Never forget to put await over here. Good that I remember. Good that I remember. Okay. So I'm just await logged in user dot save. I have updated the field and I have saved. Right. So now I hope my API should work well. And now I can just hit send and Mahendra Singh Dhoni's profile will be updated. But let us not change the Dhoni's profile. Let me change my profile. Okay. Akshay. Let me log in using Akshay. Akshay. And first of all, let me log out. Right. Let us go to log out because Dhoni is logged in right now. Right. So let us log out. So Dhoni is logged out. Let us just verify if he is logged out or not. How? Let us go to profile view. Send. Token is not valid. Cool. Now let me log in using my akshay@gmail.com. Akshay@123. Send. Logged in. So I am logged in now. If I view my profile, so I have got the data of Akshay. Okay. My data is already updated over here, right? See this. My skills are already updated. But let me also update a lot of other things. Okay. So see, this is the default about of the user. Right now, I want to update it with this software engineer by profession, teacher by heart, and all these things. Let me send it. So if I send it, Akshay, your profile has been updated successfully. Right now, let me go to the profile view and let me fetch my profile data. So if I hit send, so it will send me the data back. And now my data is updated perfectly, right? Now my new data has been updated and my API is working well. So we have successfully made this API. You know what you can do? You can also, whenever you are sending this response, right? So you can also send it in a beautiful way. Sometimes, I have seen a lot of people send it like this, right? Let me just show it to you also. So they send the data back using response.json. Okay. So it will send the JSON back and over there you can just, send it like this. Okay. So let me just show it to you. Why I'm showing you, see, whatever is coming to my mind, I want to give you all the knowledge that is coming to my mind. Okay. All the knowledge which is coming to my mind. So I want to just give you all the knowledge. Response.json and over here they give a message, right? This is the message. Right? And after the message, if suppose I also want the data of the user back, right? If I also want to give the data of the user back. So what I will do is I will just send that data also. How can I send data? I can send the data of the user back and inside my data, I can just send the logged in user back. Okay. So this will send the logged in user and the data. Now just see the response of the edit API, you will understand it, right? So right now the response is coming like this. Akshay, your profile is updated successfully. Now, if I send it, see, it will give me a data. It will give me a JSON. The message is this: Akshay, your profile is updated successfully, and the data of the updated user, right? So the actual API response comes something like this. And it is not a plain text that we were sending, right? We were just sending the text, but this is a good way of sending the response. I am slowly teaching you the best practices now, okay? So always try to send the data in a particular format, because see, if I am on the edit page, I am editing the profile. As soon as I hit the save button, my API will save the data in the database, give me back the response. I will have the updated data and I can update the profile on the UI also, right? So this is how you can do it. Got it? So this is what you can do it. This is my edit profile API, and hope you would have enjoyed this session. I have created the logout API. I have created the profile edit API. And if you go back to the API list, right? So we have created sign up, login, logout, profile view, profile edit, and this API is left, right? And this API, let me give you homework, okay? So this is a very easy API again. This is a patch profile password API, right? This API is basically for forgot password API, right? This is basically a forgot password API. So you have to write the logic for it. And when you will write the logic, this will be your homework, right? This is your homework, forgot password API. So basically, you will have to do all the things once again. So basically, how will the logic work? Can you think about it? So it will take the existing password. It will take the new password, right? And it will first of all validate whether the user should be logged in. Then it will check whether the existing password is correct or not, right? Existing password, you will have to use bcrypt.compare to check if the existing password is correct or not. If the existing password is valid, then you will basically check, right? Then you will basically check whether the new password is strong enough or not. If the user password is strong enough, then you will update it. You can write the logic on your own, right? You can write the logic on your own. Okay. And maybe, you don't even need to compare the previous password, right? You don't even need to compare the previous password. Why? Because the user is already logged in. Suppose the user is already logged in. Do you need the current password? Yes, we have seen something like that, right? So make the API, you take existing password and the new password and then update the password, okay? Make your API secure. So I don't know how you will implement this, but this is your homework. I am giving you the homework. In the next episode, I will start making these APIs. We will start working on connection request and all these other interesting stuff, right? Just like we go to Tinder and we go and do right swipe and left swipe. I have closed the Tinder over here. But if I do right swipe, left swipe, all these APIs will work. It will add a lot of complexity in our application, and these API logic, writing the logic of sender, request, and all these things will be very, very complicated. So we will start moving towards that. But your homework is that after this episode, all my students should have all these 6 APIs ready. All these 6 APIs should be ready. Okay. So let me give you the homework before I end this. So your first thing is that you will have to do is you will have to create API, create logout API, create post/logout API. Okay, you will have to create logout API and test it, and then you will have to create your patch profile API, profile/edit API. Okay, and you have to test all APIs, test all APIs, right? And 6 APIs should be ready by now. 6. Okay. One more, right? Homework was to create one more API, right? Which was the API? Create a update password. Create a patch/profile/password API, right? API, and over here, this is a forgot password API, okay? And in case you forget it, this is your forget password API. Forgot password API. Got it? So this is your homework. And after that, also make sure, right? I am writing all of these things. Make sure you validate all data in every post patch request, right? Post patch APIs are very, very important because you have to validate and sanitize your data Very late, right? Post, patch, update, all these APIs are very, very important, right? Post, patch APIs. Right? So you have to write the validation logic. So this is the homework for this episode, right? Hope you have enjoyed this episode. That's all for now. Let me just commit this also, right? Log out plus what API did we create in this, right? Profile edit API, edit profile API. Edit profile API, right? This is the logic that we wrote, and I have, let me just commit the code. We have tested everything. Okay. Did I not save something? Cool. So now, okay. Add it. I think I have forgotten to add this, but check it, right? I don't worry much about it, right? Cool. So what I am saying, my dear friends, is now this was the homework for your episode. Please finish this. And again, I would request and repeat that just watching the videos won't help you if you are not practicing. If you are not practicing, then just watching those videos is not good, right? I want all my students to be very good at writing code, very good at writing logic, very good at writing express. We are starting to make our application big now. It is getting bigger. It is getting complicated. Let's just write more code and make this app work. That's all I want to say in this video. And thank you so much for watching this video till the end. And I just have a last request that I request in every video, that please share a word about Namaste Node.js, about Namaste Dev to all your friends, family, and people on social media. Share, give us a shout out on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you wish to. You can also share your notes and learnings from this episode on social media. You can maybe talk about Express Router. You can maybe talk about whatever you have learned in this episode. Maybe you can talk about something which you have liked, really liked, maybe Express Router. How do you manage routes? You can just compile your thoughts, your learnings into a LinkedIn post, into a Twitter thread, or you can even post your photo of your notes or your digital notes, share it up, write a blog maybe, right? Share all this knowledge with all the other people on social media, and give us a shout out if you wish to. And please, please, please tag me along if you are giving a shout out to me. I would love to read your post. I love to read the post of students. It just makes me very, very happy. That's all in this video, my dear friends. We'll come back in the next video with a lot more amazing stuff, lot more APIs, and we will write a lot of interesting code. Okay, bye-bye for now, and thank you so much for watching.